that's why I love testing in Indy cars. You'd go testing, and then even at the Speedway, if you change a spring by 50 pounds at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you're changing the car. You know, tire pressures, you're changing the car. Just a little bit of tow, you're changing the car. All these things that you need to be able to feel. And I think for me, the basis came from the 3 years I ran Formula Ford.
Right.
Now, I wanted to get out of Formula Ford in the first year because I'd won the championship in the race at the Grand Prix in Montreal and all that sort of stuff, and I was ready to move. But, you know, there was one thing in motor racing that's always a problem. It's sponsorship.
Oh, really?
And budget. So I didn't go anywhere the second year, and I won the same stuff the second year, and then lo and behold, you know, I thought I was going to go into Formula Atlantic the third year, and matter of fact, after the second year, funny story, had won the Montreal Grand Prix race for Formula Ford the second year in a row, and Doug Shearson, a name I'm not sure if you know, Doug Shearson used to own Indy cars, and at that time he was owning Formula Atlantic cars. He came up to me and said, "Hey, I've watched you, saw that you won this race 2 years in a row. I think you are capable of moving up to Atlantic. You should come and talk to me. You know, maybe talk to me later in the season." Well, it's June, you know, for the Montreal Grand Prix, and I'm going, late in the season. So I call him up like on Monday. Okay, and he's not even back in the office yet. I got in touch with him on Tuesday. "Hi, I met you, would like to come and visit with you." "Oh, why don't you come visit us next week?" And I said, "Okay, fine." So I get out there and I have a nice chat with him, see the race shop in Adrian, Michigan. Even remember the looks of the shop. Get through that. At the end of the day, we're sitting in the office, and he looked at me, and I think I'm on my way to signing the Formula Atlantic deal next year. And he goes, "So where's your budget coming from? Who's paying for this?" You know, so I was very young and naive at the time, and I'm going, "Still working on that, Mr. Shearson, still working on that." And, you know, I remember the drive home was just like I was deflated, you know, because I mean, you know, it's a learning side of the business that I didn't understand at that point in time. And so I went back to Formula Ford for a third year, but it wasn't a bad thing in the sense that I think you really had the opportunity to learn about the car, and then obviously you're trying to learn the business side. And today, as you know, it's 110% what you do off the track, and maybe 100% what you do on the track.
Yeah, and that's a very key point. I mean, I look at yourself. I mean, obviously very successful in motorsports. Myself, it took me almost 19 years to get a ride where I didn't actually physically have to take money out of my own pocket and pay for it. I think it's a challenge for many young drivers, and we talked about it a little bit before in this conversation. And now to find the funding, to find the help, or find the necessary funds or support to actually get you into a race car.
And it's become more expensive.
It's becoming more expensive.
That's the issue right now. I mean, that everybody has. You know, we're having even as a family with my son, and I think the kids today have to look at it a little bit differently because you almost need a backup plan. You know, there's some great drivers in the States that I've seen come through some of the training series that never get a shot to get into Indy cars. For me, all I wanted to know when I was working up through the ranks is, can I do it? If I get to a point where I can't win and I'm not successful and competitive, then you've answered the question, and then you say to yourself, okay, you know what? This is as much talent as I have, and I'll go off and, you know, have a real world job. But today, I think the kids don't just have to worry about that. They have to really worry about the funding, because it takes more money just to make this whole business work. You know, and I understand, you know, budgets that I had for Porsches back in my days completely different than what you guys had. Just the cost of these cars compared to what we have, obviously a more purpose-built race car than obviously what we were using. But it just takes funding. That's the whole key thing. And, you know, that's the challenges I'm sure that you have today. I mean, I'm sure throughout the year, you know, you're worried about driving a car, but I'm sure you're worried about the funding and next year, and you know, so that works on you. I'm sure from your aspect. I mean, do you worry about that during the week a little bit?
You always worry about it. You're always concerned, and if it's not your car, you're worried about damaging the car. You're worried about making sure that the equipment comes home safely, so you're not spending more money on crash damage. And it's all that thought process that goes through a driver's mind that could potentially affect the driver, or it can make them a better driver. But when you start thinking about that, typically you're going to go a little bit slower, right?
You know, and give you credit, because a lot of people chasing something for 19 years would have stopped. And that's the key thing. And I'm not sure if for me, if it was just the tenacity, or I was just too stupid to go do anything else, to a point where, you know, I was just so focused on making sure I was going to drive a race car. I was up to almost $100,000 in debt at one point in time. But the way I looked at it, I thought, you know what? I'm young, I can turn around and make money and pay it off. And I think that's the other thing for drivers today. You have to want it so bad, hence your 19 years of chasing it, that nothing else matters. You know, you sacrifice regular things and everyday life things that other people are doing, whether it's vacations or what have you, that you have to focus on what you want to do, and that's be a race car driver.
You're absolutely right. You really hit the nail on the head there, because it's exactly that. There's a lot of financial sacrifice. I had to, take a lot of loans out from the bank and ask the bank to keep giving me a little bit more money, and they're starting to ask, what's this money for? And it's for projects or try to build my career. But it's definitely a very, very tough career to become a professional at. But I think that if you do put the dedication and the hard work and the belief that you can actually do it, things do tend to kind of fall into place. And I don't believe that it's all about luck. I believe that you create your own luck, and I think that you're a perfect example of that. And I now see a little bit more of a very similar relationship between what it is that you've succeeded at doing and what it is that I've tried to accomplish doing. And now that I'm here and talking to somebody that has such a great history like yourself, I mean, it's really special for me to feel as a young driver, getting a little bit older as a driver, to see that other people have faced the same struggles as myself, and I look up to you a lot, and I'm really, really proud to have seen such a successful Canadian race car driver succeed at doing what they love doing. And I look back at my life now and kind of consider myself very fortunate to be able to continue doing what I love doing, as well as not have to give up all the smaller details anymore in life, where I couldn't go out and hang out with my friends because I want to save those pennies to go racing.
Right. And we are very fortunate, and you're right, and you appreciate it. But I think the key thing that we always need to remember is that even though we're doing it as an individual, we're in a car, and people are seeing us drive around, it's still teamwork. And I've said that all the time, and I'm sure you understand that it's a teamwork, whether you're driving this with the group that you have around you all the time, and the people that have supported you along the way. Obviously, you have the support of Pfaff, and early in my career, I had the support of Chris Pfaff, and not only in here, but just the encouragement to go out and keep chasing stuff in the States, because he knew that's where the racing was, and that's where you'd be successful. So it's the people that helped you along the way that I always think about, and it's the team effort. I mean, for you guys, I'm sure you go there with probably 4 or 5 people on a given weekend, and even in Indy cars, I had people when I first moved to Indianapolis, and you'd go do some speaking, and they say, well, do you keep your car at home? Do you keep it in the garage and work at it? They don't understand that there's a facility like what we're sitting in here right now, and all the race shops in India are 80 or 100,000 square feet, have 30, 40, 80 people, and depending on the size of the shops. I think Ganassi has 110 people now working in his shop in Indianapolis. And, that's the support you have behind you. And it's always been a team effort. So for us, and the size of teams that I had, it was probably 30 or 35 people. And team effort goes all the way. I mean, now that I'm doing television, we go to a regular weekend for ABC and ESPN, and we'll probably have 75 people on site. When we get to the Indy 500, and that balloons to, we're there all month, and it balloons to 140, I think it's 170 on race weekend, with people with cameras and remotes and all the stuff that goes with it. I mean, everything in life is all about teamwork and relationships, and that's what makes racing so successful. And I think that's what makes it so gratifying. It's gratifying for us as a driver, when we go across the finish line and, we got this victory, which is wonderful. But, I know that there's, either 10 guys standing in pit lane or 15 guys standing in pit lane that are feeling the same thing, not exactly because they're not in the car, but, they're feeling that elation of we just won.
They're part of it, 100%.
Absolutely, yeah. Which is really fun. And that's the relationships. I mean, now you talked about it, and I thank you for telling me it was 25 or 27 years ago. But, and I mean, still, Chris Pfaff is still a good friend, after all these years. And, so it's like family that you get. And you come back and you see people and meet people, and the people that are passionate about racing or cars or what have you, they're all still part of the family. And just, for however, one way or another, you all still keep in touch with each other. I keep in touch with the sponsor we had back in those days with the Pfaff car with Pop 84, Joseph Manzola. It was a clothing, and now he's in different other various businesses. But it's really neat. It's gratifying, but still, like I said, it's teamwork and it's support by so many people to make it all happen.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about Pfaff. I mean, for ourselves in Pfaff Motorsports, it's all staff that work at various Pfaff locations. Right. So it's people that are very dedicated. It's a young group of people. It's people that want to do this. They're so passionate and so keen and driven to be successful and be part of the team and be part of such an intimate group. I mean, we really are family, and I like how you touch base on family. And people don't really see that or understand that. But you spend so much intimate time with these people, so much time away from the track, away from your family, away from home, away from work, that you really do build a relationship with these guys and girls in our case. And these people have just put so much hard work, sweat, and dedication to the program for us, at Pfaff Motorsports. It's such a rewarding experience to be able to bring home the win or the championship, because yes, you are the face of the team, but there's so many people in behind, people that work behind closed doors that don't necessarily get the recognition or the the fame, but I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today without them. And it just kind of brings me to the next point that, you know, Pfaff Automotive Partners has grown so much over the past 25 years since you did, you know, the Rothmans Cup back in '88. I mean, you started racing with the team when I think Porsche, Volkswagen, and Audi were out of the same showroom.
All in the same store, and actually I met my wife Leslie through Chris in the store, so it's very interesting that you know, it really is family for me, if you can believe it. And you know, when you mention that also, when you're talking there, you know, the employees of the team and the dealerships live the highs and lows, maybe not as dramatically as we do when we're on the track, if we win or lose, but they live the highs and lows, especially when you talk about the teamwork and the family atmosphere on being on the road. I mean, if you have a great weekend, everybody's pumped up and they go back to work on Monday. You know, if you have a weekend where it doesn't work out so well, you know, we are, you know, dejected, we're disappointed. The employees feel that too.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing that it's really interesting to see, that the people that are passionate about it live it, eat, and breathe, and sleep it. That's the thing. It's really, really cool.
It's very special.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have a lot to thank together for Pfaff, for his belief in both of us as drivers, for Chris specifically, and it's great to hear that you're such a great friend of his, and he always talks very, very highly of you. He actually brought me in to work with the company from Montreal, so I'm now a Toronto boy and working with Pfaff, and I couldn't be happier. It really is. I mean, from the race team to the actual, you know, 600 plus employees, it really has become a family to me, and I'm just very proud to represent Pfaff as a brand, and, you know, see the history of what we've done and accomplished in motorsports. And for us to be his two champions is pretty special feeling, because it's just that small thing that we can kind of give back for everything that he's done for myself and
absolutely
yourself.
You know, it's interesting when you mention that. It's just it's not Pfaff Porsche, Pfaff Volkswagen, or Pfaff Audi, which it was when I started, but you just mentioned something that Pfaff in itself now in Toronto, I've noticed when I come back, is a brand by itself. And people recognize that. I mean, it's not like a car brand, but it is definitely a brand in the city. There's no doubt about that. So he's done a wonderful job with all his employees, and obviously the group that he has together. So yeah, it's grown tremendously.
Yeah.
Tremendously.
Well, Scott, I think we've covered quite a few great topics today, and thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure to talk to you, and hopefully we'll get you out in this bad boy sometime next year, and maybe we can see who comes around the track a little bit quicker.
Well, I think I know that. I'm a little bit too old to go too quick these days, but yeah, it'd be fun, and enjoyed the chat, followed what you were doing this year, actually, and even through the last races, just following on the web when you guys went, and was actually watching it and texting back and forth with Chris when you won the championship. So tremendous, and congratulations on the championship, because the neat thing for that is that it follows with you forever.
Absolutely, and I appreciate the encouragement, and I heard about it. You were the first one to call him or text him and say congratulations, and it does go a long way, so thank you again.
That was cool. It means a lot, especially for the driver,
but
also obviously for the brand, for Pfaff.
Absolutely.
All right.